Breaking news, hot off the presses. It was crazy when I woke up this morning. I saw on the Twitterverse that, oh, look, Marvel is about to have an announcement. And what did I see? I saw a picture of a actor's chair with Chris Hemsworth's name on it. And I just assumed that was going to be an announcement for the next Thor movie. Turned into a live stream that then turned into a camera that would then every about 12 to 15 minutes slowly move left to right to reveal another actor's name. This announcement took over 5 hours. This was insane. To watch this, and I did not just sit on my couch and watch this, but I just kept checking in, and it was like at first they were announcing a bunch of, no offense to the actors, but a bunch of lame characters you just don't care about, and you're like, okay, well, this is going to be the dumbest movie of all time. And then slowly but surely, it ramped up and got good. And then it was like, okay, I'm not that confident this movie's going to be great. The Russo brothers are back. We already know Robert Downey Jr. is playing Doctor Doom, whatever that may mean. So there's a lot of things going on. But as the announcement kept coming out, it was just like, this is kind of crazy and this could be a disaster, but it's also exciting. So I'm curious and I'm excited because I did spill the beans of some of these announcements to Rembo, and special guest Barrett's Zach has not heard any of these announcements. Right, Zach? You have yet still not heard any of these?
I have heard no announcements. I only know of Robert Downey Jr.
So I'm very excited because it's just going to be interesting because I think overall, I speak for most for most people, for the three of us, Marvel's just lost all its steam. Phase 4, I think, can be labeled a disaster to the extent that it got made fun of for being such in Deadpool. And so it kind of just felt like there's nothing they can do to bring this franchise back. But they brought the Russo brothers back. And they brought back Robert Downey Jr., and now they've brought back a large list of actors. And I would like to go through this list in variations of speed and kind of figure the tone. So when this announcement happened, they showed that Chris Hemsworth was coming back. Then it was Vanessa Kirby. And then Anthony Mackie's coming back. Sebastian Stan as Bucky is coming back. Letitia Wright as Shuri, Black Panther's coming back, and Paul Rudd as Ant-Man's coming back. That was the first wave, and it was like, yeah, those are the people that are still alive in the universe. Remy, when I clued you in, did you hear anything about this happening, or were you just unaware of this? Because what happened was that the internet was taken by storm to the part where this got like almost 10 million live viewers of literal chairs. Watching chairs get revealed with this low humdrum sound, and then all of a sudden some epic music would play, and they show the next chair. And it was like, what? Like, people are watching this? And it literally took over the internet. So, Remy, what was your perception of this event?
Did they... I don't even know what they live streamed it on. Was it Twitter or Instagram or what?
Over 8 million people were watching this live on Twitter, and it was over 100,000 were watching it on YouTube, and then however many thousands were watching it on Instagram and the other sources. So it was around 10 million people.
That's crazy. I had no idea that this was happening. I didn't know there was some like big Marvel event that was supposed to happen today. I saw you had texted us about it, like, oh, hey, this is happening. And then I quickly checked, and I saw Hemsworth, Mackie, Rudd, Tenok, however you say his name, Namor, Mrs. Black Panther, and I think that was about it. Oh, and I saw, yeah, and fucking Russell, Kurt Russell's kid,
Wyatt Russell.
As Agent, whatever his name is.
US
So that was it, and I was like, wow, that is a sad, sorry-ass way to start this announcement. Like, and then I just tuned out until you started texting, or then you had texted about a couple other random people that joined that were just completely, like, Kelsey Grammer, just like, who the fuck cares? And then you were like, oh, shit, so-and-so, and then you gave me a couple names of people that were coming back, and I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. And that's basically where I left off.
Yeah. So, Zach, I am curious because where are you with Marvel right now? You're a big comic guy. We grew up as comic people. We love the good Marvel movies, and then I think it's very fair to say that the franchise fell off and you've lost interest. But I'm curious if there's anyone or anything that could get you back into to being interested to go to the theater to see the next movie, or at this point, are you just like, if it happens to be a good movie, I'll watch it, but nothing can bring me back at this point?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if it's a good movie, then I will go see it. And I tend not to, look at reviews. That's not true. I definitely try not to if it's something I haven't seen. I like to kind of reverse look up. But I don't think that I'll be buying advance tickets the way that I did for Infinity War and Endgame and the like. And I really don't think it's because my interests have drifted or that I've matured or outgrown any sort of this type of entertainment. Because as both of you all know, I watch the first 2 Spider-Man movies probably once a month. And, but it is interesting. I don't find myself necessarily going back to peak Marvel as often, but I love all types of entertainment. I don't think that a bitchin' cast list, in excess or just with what you're talking about is enough to draw me in, because the cast is always going to be good. The cast was good of the Eternals. The cast is good of Thor, Love and Thunder, or just pick your lower rung movie. The casting is always going to be great. That's just a given. So stuffing the cast with existing players and or new higher A-level stars is really not going to be a draw for me. But I'm excited. It's in our best interest for these movies to be good as fans.
So as you said that you have not been privy to the announcements, I've said some of the names so far. Remy mentioned a couple of them. So they have announced that, basically all of the Fantastic Four is going to be in this movie, obviously. Simu Liu, who plays the most unforgettable, the man of the 10 rings or whatever his character is. That movie was just so... It was
the villain from Shang-Chi?
No, Shang-Chi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Florence Pugh, if you wanted the store brand Shasta Cola of Black Widow, then she's going to be in it. And Louis Pullman, who I could not pull his name out of a hat, but he played Bob in Maverick, Top Gun Maverick. He is in the movie.
Yeah.
He plays Sentry in the upcoming Thunderbolts movie. So a lot of the Thunderbolts are going to be in this movie, which is funny that they announced a lot of them where it's like, oh, we don't even know if they survived the last, the movie coming out, but okay. So you're already saying they're coming back for that movie. All right. And then it got real interesting once they started announcing. They said Tom Hiddleston's coming back, which I feel like has been the 7th movie that Tom Hiddleston has come back for. So it's not that interesting. But then we got the X-Men. So Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Alan Cumming, Nightcrawler, as Nightcrawler, Rebecca Romijn coming back as Mystique, which was a big deal. I literally texted Remy. I said, when I saw Alan Cumming, I'm like, please bring back Rebecca Romijn as Mystique. Do not bring back Jennifer Lawrence. And then literally the next announcement was Rebecca Romijn coming back as Mystique, which I cannot say how much I love that. James Marsden coming back as Cyclops.
Okay.
And then, Remy, you're going to love this. We are getting Channing Tatum coming in as Gambit.
Okay.
to write the ship.
Don't say they never did anything right, because God damn it, that is the right move. That's the right fucking move. The idea that you were going to bring him in just as a one-off kind of jokey joke in Deadpool, that would have been bullshit. That would have been fucking complete bullshit. So the fact that they're doubling down and bringing him back, I fucking love that. I fucking love that.
Zach, those X-Men, those original X-Men, nobody from the First Class era that was announced.
Right.
That was all from the original X-Men or X2 and X-Men 3. What are your thoughts on hearing that those characters and those actors who are, some range between the ages of 50 and 150?
Well, I think it's always a good idea to not judge something, based on the casting or if it's a revitalization or something like that. I gotta say though, with my excitement level is not super high in bringing back the early 2000s X-Men cast, not because I don't love the first two of those movies, and even the third one. I think it's one of the stronger third entries in a trilogy of that era. It's stronger than say Spider-Man 3, but that's besides the point. I think that X-Men has worked best when it refreshes. So I love X-Men First Class. Days of Future Past is a really good movie, but I almost find the parts with the elder statesmen, the original cast, kind of distracting from the new story that's being told. And yeah, I know you're being funny, but Ian McKellen is, I want to say, probably at least 83. I'm sure Patrick Stewart is 80, and it gets a little bit. One thing that I think, whether I'm prejudging it or not, is at a certain point, you can really tell that they're having to make the actors comfortable, even to just be in scenes, and it's natural. The body gets older, and those are demanding roles. Acting is a demanding profession. So to me, as much as I appreciate Rebecca Romijn over, say, somebody like Jennifer Lawrence, I'm not, I think X-Men has worked best when they refresh it. And I think if I were to prejudge it, this feels more akin to trying to pull in the audience through nostalgia as opposed to confidence in the characters themselves. So I love your excitement, both of you. And I agree, Rebecca Romijn was I loved her interpretation and portrayal of the character a lot more than Jennifer Lawrence. But I think that franchise and series of characters has worked best historically by bringing in new talent. So I'm personally not very excited by this announcement.
I think you're totally. I think you are on the right side of history. I can't help myself but make this a sports analogy. This is the franchise that spends all its cap space to get all the old veterans that were great at one point, and you're hoping you can put together this team to make it one big run and get to the championship instead of building through the draft. And unfortunately for Marvel, their draft has absolutely blown. If you have Doom and you have all these characters, and it's like you're going to have Danny Ramirez as Joaquin Torres / the new Falcon, just get vaporized in the first 5 minutes. And you're just getting rid of this cast that didn't work for this first phase. And so I think the Remy, the Russo brothers, at one point in our opinions, were very high. And sadly, they just have not produced anything of note since Endgame. And to me, the one thing that you can say about them during Marvel is that they understood payoffs. They took the ball from a lot of the predecessors of Joss Whedon, who did Avengers and Avengers 2. And they were able to have a bunch of payoffs in the movies that they directed. Do you have any confidence in the Russo brothers at this point that they can take all these characters from all these franchises and at least set it up in a way that will give definitive payoffs to characters that we all care about?
Confidence is low, for sure. It's just, everything they've done post-Endgame has been sad, disappointing, mediocre at best. They just do straight-to-streaming movies, which is more or less straight-to-video on demand, quality movies at this point, right? So if it does feel genuinely in that same vein of desperation, of just we're going to bring back big names, everybody's going to lose their shit. That being said, I feel like there will be some little moments in there. I feel like, at the very least, seeing Alan put back on the costume, seeing Rebecca Romijn back as Mystique, the right Mystique, those things, Channing Tatum, I think, will probably have a really good role, potentially. James Marsden. So I think I'm excited to see those guys, even the older guys. It's like when Michael Caine came back for Tenet, and it was just painful to watch him, and it was just why is he doing this? He doesn't need money, just let it go. And so I do hope that they're being well taken care of, and this isn't some they're being taken advantage of in any sort of way. But I'm always happy to see them. So hopefully they're in good health enough to be able to do this and perform in a way that feels meaningful. But Yeah, man, it's hard not to be excited about the just seeing even in just seeing some new scenes with the old crew. Got to be something in there that's worth seeing. There's got to be. Now, am I going to rush to the movie theaters to see this movie when the reviews come out and they say it's awful? Probably not. Might see it on a late night, like 4, 5, 6 weeks into the theatrical release. But no, confidence low, potential. I think there's some potential there.
I think that that's really interesting because I think that when you look at the median age of the actors that have come in for a new role, it's probably quite high. It's probably at least 45. I think Downey Jr. was probably 41 or 42 in 2008 when he picked up the character. And then obviously Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart were in their 50s or 60s when those movies started. Hugh Jackman was 30. So if you were to average all that out together, the leads across, many different ownerships of Sony or Marvel Studios, I bet you it would land somewhere at the age of 50, just, because of such a large margin. I don't really understand who bringing back, and again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the elderly. I think it's incredibly awesome that, Harrison Ford or Ian McKellen or Patrick Stewart are still wanting to make these movies. Remy, you mentioned being taken care of. They're taking care of their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren, certainly by taking these roles financially. But who is this for? We came of age. We were 10 to 14 years old when those X-Men movies were coming out. We're all now in our 30s. So it's not, I don't want to speak for either of you, but it's not really enticing me to go back to see that group of people. And then I think for younger generations, current comic fans from the age of, 7 to 21 years old, wouldn't you want to see actors that are maybe closer to that age range or in their, younger and up and coming? It feels like a very odd marketing misfire. And I don't want to prejudge it too much, but that's more of the question is who is this for?
I feel like you could make the same question with Star Wars Episode 1. Like that's like you're bridging two generations, like a new generation that grew up watching it with their parents versus the generation that was born through it. Obviously, the gap isn't that big, comparatively, obviously from Episode 6 to Episode 1. But I think that's similar, like maybe a good comparison of just like you can still be garnering new fans while also reintroducing themes and characters like Obi-Wan or Yoda from original past. So obviously different scaling there, but I think that's probably the closest example I can think of.
But again, this plays to kind of the issue we have at hand is also a Hollywood issue is new talent, new actors, new movie stars. I mean, we've talked about, and everyone knows that the only true movie star today is Tom Cruise. Like, that's the only guy that's like an actual vehicle. Everyone else is just like, oh, I like that person from that thing. I think Florence Pugh is a really talented actor, and I think she was great in Oppenheimer, and I'm sure she can be great, and I don't have anything against her I'm just saying, like, she is the victim of being a lower tier character in a lower tier movie that nobody is like excited to see again. And that's kind of the whole issue with all those names that I mentioned before we got to X-Men is just like, I think Wyatt Russell's cool, but like, do I care about US Agent? No, I don't. And it's like to get excited. And this is the member-berry thing. Yeah, they're bringing back old actors. And does that mean the movie's going to be good? No. But it did work with Days of Future Past. Like that, it did work there. And I'm not against de-aging, and X-Men 3 was the first movie, to my knowledge, that did de-aging, and the opening sequence with Charles and Eric going to the house of
Jean Grey.
Thank you, Jean Grey. They de-aged them, and that was 2006. So I'm not against that, and I just think that you're right, Remy. It's like I don't need to see like Ian McKellen just sitting at a table and then a CG of him like jumping around the same way that Batman '89 was jumping around in The Flash. I don't need that. Right. We can do de-aging, but it'll be interesting to see how they handle that.
I think part of the reason why you're seeing so many elder statesmen come back, and then why it's unsurprising, okay, Paul Rudd is going to be back. Chris Hemsworth is going to be back. Chris Hemsworth, somebody who tried to do other work, but that's a whole other story. I don't think that up and coming actors such as Timothée Chalamet or something like that are wanting to get involved in a superhero franchise the same way Chris Pratt did in 2012, 2013 when they started filming that movie, because it's like it clogs up your schedule, it becomes the only thing you can do, and it really limits your options. And a lot of, say, like the Chalamets are gravitating more towards like smaller, low budget films. I'm not saying I want Timothée Chalamet to be in Marvel, but I bet I wouldn't guarantee it. I would be unsurprised if Marvel at this point is having trouble attracting, people that could be great action stars, and that's why it's unsurprising that all the people that haven't died yet are returning, and they're having to go to the well of these much, much older actors. I think that the tide is probably shifting. If I were an actor, I would want to get paid, but I don't know that I would be willing to consider it, whereas 10 years ago, I don't know. That's all. That's all I wanted to put forth.
I agree. I think Disney should prey on the weak and get a bunch of young potential actors that haven't hit their stride yet, get them in lucrative contracts that they can't get out of, and then they're stuck with entertaining us for like the next 5-10 years. I like that idea.
Anyway, someone that is clearly in a horrible contract with Hollywood that has to be in everything just to pay his rent is Pedro Pascal, who's coming in as Reed Richards, who's literally in everything.
That dude got so many gambling debts, so many.
I mean, if it's not going to surprise me if one day I walk into the kitchen and my wife is there cooking food and it's Pedro Pascal, because I'm just like, oh, that's right, Pedro Pascal is everywhere. So. Anyway, he's back as Reed Richards, and the sequence ended after 5 hours with Robert Downey Jr. coming into screen and pointing to the chairs and being like, "Yes, we are here." And so then it leads itself to, okay, so who wasn't there? Who was not mentioned, which is a long list of people, but they mentioned so many people, then it's like, okay, well, who didn't they mention? Zach, is there anyone they could have mentioned that would have got you all the way back?
No, not all the way back, because I'm not all the way out. I've not fully, but a lot of the actors that are there are people whose work I enjoy inside and outside of Marvel. My favorite working actor is Michael Fassbender, and he's already played Magneto. So if he were to be back, I guess I would be, but he would have such a diminished role in part of a larger ensemble. I'm more interested at this point. I'm more interested in self-contained stories. I know y'all aren't huge fans of Guardians Part 3, but even if you look at the first two, I think part of the reason those are so strong, along with the first Iron Man, is because they're self-contained stories. So a giant ensemble and who would be a part of that? Honestly, I would be more excited if the directors, if the announcement was they got like, I don't know, David Fincher or Quentin Tarantino was going to do a superhero movie at this point. Same with Bond. So no, I mean, a lot of actors who I love are already going to be on there or are already in there. So I don't know if that makes sense as an answer.
Yeah, well, the biggest names they left off, Chris Evans, they haven't announced him. And again, Secret Wars is going to come after this. I'm sure there will be a lot of people that aren't in Doomsday that come in Secret Wars. Chris Evans, Mark Ruffalo, TV people like Charlie Cox, Jeremy Renner was absent, no Tom Holland, Paul Bettany, and none of the Guardians are showing up. The big one that I was just like, if you just add this name, like if you just add Tobey Maguire, people will just want to love the movie just because that's like the name. That's like, I think, the biggest marquee name as far as it relates to superhero products. If you add him at some point, if his name gets mentioned, like people are going to be way more interested in your product, way more than whenever they announce Tom Holland's going to be in this movie or the next movie. Ram, is there anyone that you wish was announced for this movie that wasn't?
Yeah, I think Toby's the layup. Toby's the obvious one of just like, I felt like, No Way Home had a couple moments for him, but it was just far too fleeting. And I feel like you could have really done a better job, or just done a more in-depth job. He deserved a little bit better for coming back for that role. So if they brought back Toby, for sure would have gotten pretty hyped for that. Other than Toby, I mean, Alan Cumming, I'm a big Nightcrawler guy. I really, really love the Nightcrawler as a comic book character. I really enjoy Alan Cumming's performance as him. We should actually can we get a Daredevil Nightcrawler moment, and they can just like talk about how much they love the Mother Mary? I don't know, something. But yeah, I think Toby's the big one. I'm glad that they didn't say Hugh. I'm surprised that they didn't, but I'm glad that they didn't because we just did the whole like, oh, we're bringing him back. So if you brought him back again, it would feel really, really cheap. So hopefully that stays the case, even though I love Hugh Jackman. But maybe he can be even a more depressed loser version of himself this time. Yeah, but that. I don't know. Toby's the big one. I'm kind of surprised that Ruffalo wasn't announced. That's like the big name that I just assumed would be in there, and then it's not. So I'm a little bit confused. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting list of X-Men that they picked, and interesting. Like they didn't. So no Hallie.
No Hallie, no Famke Janssen, Sean Ashmore. So anyway, again, you got some big names. I was very happy that James Marsden's name because I always hated the feeling of watching him off screen get vaporized in X-Men 3. I always hated that. I'm like, he deserved better. Like James Marsden did a really good job at being douchey Cyclops, and I always hated that that's how he went out. And then you get the cameo at the end of Days of Future Past, which was cool. But I would love, if he's a character, I'd love that actor, and he still looks great. He looks fucking great. He looks fucking great. So it's like, I would love him to be back and to get his chance to have his moment the same way that Channing Tatum had his moment. While we're on the Deadpool subject, I like that none of us has said we're interested in seeing Ryan Reynolds back. So it's like, we've seen enough Ryan, thanks.
Yeah.
But Blade. I mean, how fucking dope would it be to get Blade back? I mean, I'd fucking go for that.
Yeah,
right, but this is such a weird move though, because I know that Blade has been in development hell for years now with Mahershala Ali, and so I really think it's going to kind of hamper the progress of.
There is no. Sorry to cut you off, but there is no progress.
I also wonder how they're going to slot in the tone. I know, Remy, I know you're super excited about Gambit. He's an awesome character. But that character existed kind of as a joke in the film and as a wink at the audience. So now they're going to slot him into this movie and we're supposed to take him seriously? I don't know. I mean, maybe they can do it. But I really don't understand the blend of not starting fresh. And I think it's a very dangerous move to the longevity of these characters. I don't know.
They're creatively bankrupt. I mean, they're creatively bankrupt. They tried. Phase 4 was an attempt to move away from the old characters and start new, and it failed over and over and over again. I mean, how many people on the street would you have to run into and ask them, can you name one character from Eternals? Mm-hmm. And like the blank faces you would get. It's like, they failed. And this is like Deus Ex Machina moment of like, we're just throwing everything at the kitchen sink, in the kitchen sink. Maybe it's awful, maybe it sucks, but none of us wanted to watch an Avengers movie with the first half of the cast that I mentioned. Right. So it's like, hey, I always thought that X-Men versus Avengers was a layup of a movie, just to say have a title that said X-Men versus Avengers. And maybe that's what they're setting up. Maybe they're setting up a movie where somehow the characters are juxtaposed and they're going to go at each other. That was kind of what I wanted 10 years ago. But if they're going to do it now, if it can be done respectfully, which I think one thing the Russo brothers have done outside of Fat Thor was treat most of the characters with respect. And then it just becomes like, okay, as far as studio interference goes, what are we looking at with, okay, does the studio say you have to have another character they didn't mention? They didn't mention any of the Marvels. So Captain Marvel was clearly shoehorned into Endgame where she had no business being in that movie. And so is that going to be a facet of the movie? Or have they just owned up to the fact that nobody liked these movies, nobody liked these new characters? We're going to put, just the same way that Infinity War put all of the best characters in the spotlight. Are they going to do that with this? We'll find out. We'll see. It should be loads of fun watching the internet talk about it.
Doctor Strange?
Also not mentioned.
Okay.
Allegedly, a third movie with him is coming out, and they are in talks with Sam Raimi to direct that movie as well.
Go.
So we'll see.
Bring him back. Bring him back. More horror.
Bring back everybody. Bring back Stan Lee. Can we get one more cameo from Stan Lee? Excelsior! And that's last pick.